Welcome back to Fresh Rubber. Hello, Gav. Nice to
We're,
see you. It's been a while.
we're so back. We're so
We are
back.
so back. And just like F1 returned after what seemed like a 10-year hiatus, we've got a lot to cover. We've got a lot of ground to cover. We've got many laps to go through. And I think the killer topic for us to start with is we actually have a three-way fight on our hands. We've got the three teams seemingly taking turns at being fastest on track in various sessions. It's like, after you, no, me first. No, after you, let's go first. The three teams, McLaren, Ferrari, and Mercedes, trading blows. What a season this is shaping up to be. What are your thoughts, Gav? What did you make of the tussle between those top three on the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, look, the Strait of Hormuz aside, and our lost races. Let's talk about the Strait that really matters, which is the deployment of boost on the Strait. And these teams, yeah, I mean, they were busy, weren't they? They all went away. Like McLaren had a new floor, 7 upgrades. Red Bull had 7 upgrades. Mercedes had 11 upgrades, including a tiny little wing on the exhaust, apparently. So they've all been busy. And yeah, really, really interesting question maybe to start, the conversation off with. Is this kind of equality that we're now seeing, this kind of all of these, like you say, Jace, all these teams racing up the front together, is this about the upgrades and they've all kind of worked out how these cars work? Or is it because of some of the new regulations which have essentially reduced the amount of electrical energy? If you remember, guys, if you've been listening to us or if you've been following the news, there were some hairy moments in the last Grand Prix where closing speed, because of electrical deployment, these engines are 50% engine based and 50% electrical deployment. The closing speeds were getting pretty hairy. So I think the FIA went away. A few drivers were like, this is getting dangerous. This is getting sketchy. Closing speeds are too fast. When they press that boost button, deploy that power, they were closing too fast. The FIA went away and they said, look, we're going to make a few changes. We're going to reduce the amount of electrical energy you guys can deploy, 150 kilowatts to close closing speeds. We're going to give you less boost power. There's all this kind of reduction of this kind of super exciting racing that we saw in the first 3 races. I was a bit worried it'd get a bit boring, but I think, what do you think, Jace? Have the upgrades the teams have brought everyone back into play, or do you think almost the FIA is saying, hey, let's calm it down on the electrical energy? Has that brought everything has that calmed everything down? What are your thoughts?
I think the trajectory is right, and we should continue in this path until the electrical energy component of F1 gets to its proper amount, which is 0, and we should be right back in the V10 era.
Yeah.
So I'm all for the reduction in electrical usage throughout the lap. It's a little bit frustrating when you think, okay, they've got the world's best drivers, and the reason why that overtake happened or didn't happen was because the battery ran out. It's a little bit frustrating watching it as a fan, especially as a partisan fan as I am of the young Kimi Antonelli, and watching him thinking, oh, right, he's catching up on Leclerc. Can he get past? Oh, yes, he's finally got past. Oh, no, hang on. Leclerc's got back up the following lap. And then, by the way, Norris has got ahead as well. Quite a frustrating experience where you think this does seem less about driver, the traditional driver techniques that matter, and more about the driver battery pit wall software combination, the whole package coming together to make fast on track action possible. So it is a little bit frustrating, but I do think that Mercedes will be kicking themselves a little bit because they didn't have those 2 races to make the most of the advantage that they seemed to have on the field.
Yeah.
That said, right, there's still something like 80 points ahead of the others in the constructors' standings, and they're well ahead by 30 odd points in the drivers. So Mercedes still got the advantage, but they could have had more of an advantage if they'd had those opportunities to race in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. So it's an interesting one, but I think it's a combination, Gav, to answer your question. It's the combination of the teams figuring out things in terms of the car design and how they make the thing. It's how the drivers and the software work together as that package. And amazingly, after just 4 rounds, we actually have quite a tight field. It's kind of nuts, except in qualifying. So maybe we can talk a little bit about the qualifying chaos, I guess maybe I'd call it. It's sort of boring but exciting at the same time. Did qualifying mean anything to you this weekend, Gav? They made so much about it.
I think you've had more of a reaction to this than me. So I'm interested in hearing your thoughts on why you felt it was, particularly different to a regular qualifying session, or certainly last season's qualifying sessions.
So the thing that stands out to me is that it's this great disparity. So at the front, you get lap times coming in quite close to each other. So the top teams are converging around those times. But if you look in SQ1 and Q1, the gap back to those that didn't make the cut to go from SQ1 or Q1 into Q2 was like more than 2 seconds. So the gap from front to back is enormous. The gap from Mercedes back through to Aston Martin is just astounding. And so that aspect is a little bit wild. I'm not sure what the 107% rule would say about that. Clearly they're allowed to race, but the difference between the top and the bottom of the field is kind of nuts in a way. I don't recall seeing that kind of a delta. And yet they made a lot about, in the build-up and in the time between the Japanese Grand Prix and here, about the rule changes being optimized so that qualifying was more flat out, the whole way around the lap. And maybe it's partly the circuit. I don't know if you had this thought, Cap, but they kind of look slow going around the Miami circuit. Maybe the cameras and the layout, the cars just didn't seem that fast looking. Did you have that kind of reaction?
I agree. I mean, I guess what you're seeing there as well is, a set of regulations that have really tested these teams in a way that maybe F1 teams have never been tested before. And the clear winners are just the clear winners. The people who have grappled with it and worked it out are doing really well. And to be fair, teams like Alpine seem to have kind of worked it out, and even Audi, the former Stake team, seem to have worked it out. Whereas other teams like Williams and obviously newcomers like Cadillac and, as we know, Aston Martin, they definitely haven't worked it out. So maybe this test was like, I don't know, it's like kind of sending some Oxford kids in against some kids who went to like a community college and saying, here you go, guys. Maybe this, maybe it's just, it was just too tall an order for some of those teams. But I tell you what, jumping into the race, we've talked about being back. We've missed 2 races. Fresh rubber is back. Oh my gosh, there's a few drivers and a few teams that feel back, right? Like 100%. McLaren feel back.
How good is that?
McLaren feel back. Seeing Lando win the sprint was just like wonderful. Didn't see that coming. Seeing him fight in the main race up to P2. Seeing Piastri. Well, look, just seeing Piastri and Lando on the podium felt like amazing. I just didn't think they'd be there that quickly. Twice. Seeing a little bit of light in a bit of fire in Max. I mean, this was like the Max of the good old days. I feel like in the main Grand Prix, in the main race, by the time they finished lap 1, Max had connected with 5 cars, done a full 360 spin, regained track control, and then continued through the rest of the race to push people off the track, to get his elbows out, to touch tires. It was like Max was just like, no F's given. There's a fire back in him, and I think he knows that his car is probably the 4th fastest car on track. But it's so good to see Max get his elbows out, and just like, basically just, he's so menacing. Like, menacing Max the Menace is back, and I'm actually here for it, because it was getting a little bit like watching Toto Wolff's like little smirk at the end of every race this season. I'm now, I remember, being a Hamilton fan, like a massive Hamilton fan, and loving that smile. And now I just find it a bit annoying. And like seeing Max just get in there and just like cause trouble. I love it. The Joker in the pack. We've always said it. He's the Joker.
And yet, When you look at qualifying in Q3 before the race, only Kimi and Max were able to get into the 127s.
Right.
And it was a stonking lap from both of them. And Kimi, he was ahead of the rest of the field by 0.4 of a second until Max did his lap, and then he was 0.2 ahead. So, I mean, just those two, if we could see a head-to-head between them, forget George. Forget McLaren, just temporarily. Kimi and Max, I think, would be a pretty epic title fight. I'd love to see that go down because they're kind of like the old guard, new guard, and there's a lot of love between them. But I know that they would be ruthless on track between them. And they also have something in common. The other thing they have in common this year, Gav, is that they both have had rubbish starts every single time. Neither of them have had good starts since the first race. Max has been starting in P7 and getting bogged down. Kimi keeps having the same seemingly car issues getting off the line. Max, put the cherry on the cake today by doing a 360 in the middle of everyone and then somehow not getting hit. It's astonishing watching how poorly they've been. And yet, Max Verstappen, driver of the day. He knows what the fans want. He knows they want action. He knows in Miami they want those donuts, and he's here to provide it. So what's not to like about that?
Nothing is not to like about that. Everything is to like about it. Remarkable, on one hand, Kimi just like consistently failing at his starts. I don't know if it's a car issue. I don't know if it's a skill issue. I would lean towards a skill issue. I think there's something. He's got the yips. They call it in sport, don't they? Where
I disagree.
That's fine. You can. It's fine. You don't. Neither of us know. It's fine though.
Yep.
It could be a car issue. It could be a skill issue. It could be a bit of a mix of both. But I think he's got a bit of the yips. I think it's gotten to his head, his starts, but he always brings it back. He's the first driver ever to take 3 poles and convert them into 3 wins in history. No one's ever done that. In other words, your first pole becomes your first win. Your second pole becomes your second win. Your third pole becomes your third win. No one's ever done that. So he's made up a whole new set of kind of stats for us all to kind of, everyone. And I think everyone's very excited about Kimi. And I wouldn't want to be George right now.
I was just going to say, who's not excited about Kimi Antonelli and all these stats. And in the commentary, they're talking about, they're putting him in the same categories as Senna and Schumacher.
Yeah, they are already. Saying, so silly.
He matches Mika Hakkinen and Damon Hill. They're sort of elevating him up to these glory levels.
They are.
And the poor kid can't possibly live up to those expectations right away. And given how poor his starts have been, it's remarkable, isn't it? And I think the key thing about Kimi is that I think similar to Piastri in a way, he's kind of got that level-headedness. He just kind of gets the job done. He doesn't sink into a depressive state, seemingly, from the evidence of this year. When things go against him, he still turns it around. He made the most of a safety car in Japan, and the undercut on Norris was brilliant. Norris was unlucky. He should have won that race. That's my view. Norris actually should have had driver of the day. It was a boring sort of Max Verstappen-y type race from, back in the day. He didn't get any of the credit, didn't get any of the kudos, but he pulled off some good moves and he didn't get the victory that he felt that he deserved. And he put that all down on the getting undercut by Antonelli. So kudos to Mercedes and for Antonelli to pull off this kind of historic victory.
Tell you what, yeah, go on, finish your thought.
But Norris was a salty customer after that race. He was not a happy bunny, whatever. Even though he was on the podium, even though he put paid to his teammate Piastri, who was dominating Piastri all weekend long, on the podium for both, won the sprint race, he was not a happy camper at the end of that.
Yeah, that's just your team's. I think there was something that Lando said at the end, which was like, he said something along the lines of, let's kind of learn from this or let's do better. And it felt like he was basically saying, you let Mercedes undercut us. But look, it's that classic thing of like, who pits first? I don't know statistically. I'm guessing at Miami, the undercut's incredibly powerful. And everyone was just waiting, who jumps first for the undercut. Because if you remember, Mercedes did it to Ferrari as well. They pitted George, and then Leclerc came out behind George, and Leclerc said on the radio, "Why did we stop?" Like he was so, when is the rain? Like, why are we stopping? And
Consult me, please. Consult me.
Yeah. What did Leclerc say? Consult me. I'm here too.
Before you make a decision, please speak to me. I mean, that's classic Ferrari strategy chaos.
Ferrari. Ferrari. Anyway,
Ferrari
Mercedes.
just Ferrari'd. But you mentioned George earlier. I think you had something that you wanted to get onto with George and how he performed. What was the thought? I think I cut you off there earlier.
It does feel like George has had gremlins this whole season. So I'm trying not to assume that Kimi is just a far superior driver than him. Like, I think it's fair I'm not a massive George fan. I find him a little bit tiresome, but I think it's fair to say he's super consistent, very safe pair of hands. If you're Toto, you can see why George is around and has stayed around. But he has had gremlins in that car. Is it getting into his head, this success from Kimi? How can it not? Like, this isn't, I think a couple of races ago, George had problems in quali, and so it kind of, George would have been able to say to himself, well, look, I didn't, George P1'd me because I had problems in quali, so that makes sense. I don't know if you can say that this race. I think he was just outdriven.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the commentary made a lot about him not getting within half a second of the fastest lap in any session up until the race. He just was not at one with his car. If you look at qualifying, just as one example, in Q1, he was almost a second slower than Kimi Antonelli. So you just think, okay, it wasn't his round. It wasn't his race. It wasn't his place. And I think from a title championship battle perspective, it's only 4 races. We've still got another 22 or 2200 to go. It's a long way. And as Max showed last year, you can come back from quite a big deficit. He's 20 points behind.
20 points. It's 20 points.
It's only 20 points. It's one DNF with a win thrown in for good measure for George. But I think the thing that might get under his skin a bit more is just how special Antonelli seems and how special he's being portrayed by the world's media. He's this wonder kid that's come along. He's the youngest ever championship leader. He's now being compared to Schumacher. He's just kind of been elevated into this other realm, and that's gotta be getting under George's skin. The whole narrative about him being usurped by this amazing generational talent that's coming along and stealing his thunder in the year that it was meant to be his. That's got to be getting under your skin, don't you think?
I mean, you remember those first interviews where like every pundit was saying, this is George's year. We feel it's George's year. I think George was hearing that. George was strutting around like it was his year. It's, what I'm desperate for now, Jace, is I'm desperate for some wheel-to-wheel racing between Kimi and George. That's what I'm desperate for. Like, if Mercedes are going to run away with this, which actually it doesn't look like they might do, that without a fight from McLaren and maybe from Ferrari, if it is going to be Mercedes' year, I'd love to see them fight it out, and I'd love to see Toto put in a position that Zach was put in McLaren, where they're both like very, very close to each other, and he has to choose the number one driver. Can you imagine, Jace, if Toto has to choose Kimi as his number one driver? Like, because there could come a call down the line that just says, George, for the rest of the season, you are supporting Kimi's campaign. We'd love you at number 2 at the end of the year, but like from now on, like they're a team that will do that. Like McLaren were the only team ever who truly let their drivers race. Although some people would disagree, but it will. There will be a moment where Toto says, George, just slip in and serve Kimi's campaign.
Yeah, I think
if it continues in this way.
Yeah, and I think with the delta of 20 points, it's not there.
It's not there yet
anytime soon. Yeah,
no.
But if it becomes mathematically clearly one driver's favor, I agree. I think it'll be a tough conversation to have. I think George will have some cornflakes to go and cry into afterwards. But it's the nature of the beast. It's kind of the sport that chews you up and spits you out if you don't quite make the cut. And so, yeah, I think it's just one of those reckonings. But I think, yeah, as you say, Toto won't beat around the bush with that. He'll be very
he won't
by the numbers.
Yeah.
I get a better return from one than the other, then obviously this is the way. Although I think that's more of a Kimi Launder impression. But anyway, I think it's going to be fascinating to see. And I don't think we have the potential for that with McLaren this year. We might have a bit of that with Ferrari. You know, Hamilton and Leclerc seem a lot more evenly matched this year than they did at any point in the season last year. So there might be a time where if they can get out of their own fumbling the strategy call sort of headspace, they might find themselves needing to do some tough choices between the two. I mean, they've had on-track battles already. They've given us that kind of drama already. Think back to China.
Beautiful on-track, like ice skating, tandem, like them. I think Ferrari have given us the most beautiful wheel-to-wheel racing of the season so far. And I literally checked because I thought Leclerc, I think maybe it's just kind of trauma, but I thought Leclerc would be miles ahead, but it's actually 51-59 to Leclerc. There's 8 points between them. I really thought Leclerc was running away with it again, and that's not the case. Yeah, that's really interesting. I think if I was George, I mean, we're getting into the rumor mill here, but I think I'd be beginning to have the first inklings of concern that Toto might be eyeing up Max. We know that Max and Toto have met a number of times last year when things were going badly. We've got GP, Jean-Pierre Lambis, Max's race engineer, leaving. He's going to McLaren in 2028, or maybe sooner if they can make a deal. We've had Christian Horner leave. We've had Helmut Marko gone. Adrian Newey's gone. Wheatley's gone. So, like, this whole team has fallen like a house of cards. And I just wonder whether in the background there might be conversations about next year about Max and Kimi. And to play into your suggestion earlier in the episode, like, imagine Kimi and Max racing for Mercedes. Like, imagine, don't imagine them on opposite teams fighting for a champ. Imagine them both. Like, would Toto ever allow that? Is Max too much of a liability? Surely this is something that we should be keeping our eye out for.
I so agree. And can you think of a more potent combination at this point than those two?
I cannot.
But can you imagine the comedy, though, of them both fumbling starts and still winning races? Like, having that kind of dynamic between the two. If they ever sort out whatever is happening to both of those cars at the start of the race, they can actually make some hay while the sun shines. But I think in terms of falling apart, that's, I think, a good description of the Red Bull family's weekend this weekend as well. Look at Liam Lawson absolutely making a name for himself as the bruiser on the grid, punting Pierre Gasly into the wall and then retiring shortly after. And then Isaac Hadjar just having one of those not quite rookie errors and going straight to the scene of the accident, as Martin Brundle would say. And then the emotions, they run so raw with Hadjar, him bashing on the steering wheel, slamming his helmet, just the utter disgust and frustration with himself for performing like that. And I think if you remember on the replay, it showed he just made a pass on someone. It might have been Colapinto. So he just made a good move. He was making his way through the field. And then that happened. I mean, the Red Bull... Yeah, I mean, it was a comedy of errors to some degree. And then it was just a bunch of errors from another viewpoint as well. I mean, what did you make of the whole Red Bull family and their woes in Miami this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that I noticed, and I was interested to see it's one of those classic ones in F1 commentary where you see something and the commentators kind of allude to the fact they've seen something too, but don't go into it. I literally don't know if it's a legal thing, if it's a liable thing. You can't say this kind of thing. But there was a moment where Lawson got out of the way for Max. Did you see that?
I did.
Got out of the way. I
had
don't
the same
see
thought.
I don't see a reason why he would. I don't think there was anything about that moment that was like, he wasn't. Max wasn't. Lapping a lapped car. There was nothing about it. He just got out of the way and let Max through, and I can't prove it, but it felt like a team order. And at the same time, in the pre-race interview, Zach Brown of McLaren was being interviewed, and they were asking him about how he feels about Team Red Bull, RB and Red Bull, and he still has such an axe to grind on that issue. He's like, you cannot have two teams that can do each other favors, get out of the way when there's a final race of the season, do a Yuki Tsunoda and try and mess up the other car. You shouldn't have two teams that have got the same essential ownership and control, and you can swap drivers between those teams. When one doesn't work out, you just flip them back to the B team. And then it was mentioned that Toto Wolff is looking at buying a chunk of Alpine. And it just got me thinking, like, is this like a chess move from Toto to be like, well, Red Bull, our biggest competitor over the last decade, have got a B team in Team RB. Like, what if Mercedes had a B team in Alpine? What if I owned a chunk of Alpine, and then when I fancied like filtering drivers through or swapping them back and forth, or if it was critical, I could tell Liam Lawson to get out of the way of Max Verstappen, like I think happened today. I just think it's one of the biggest blind spots in F1 is the unfairness of a team having two teams, essentially.
Yeah. I think Zach makes some really good points, and I echo that sentiment from you as well. The seeming unfairness of that sort of Chinese wall arrangement between two teams. And I think also Zach mentioned that, this sort of thing goes on as well a little bit with teams that have a relationship that's a little bit more distant, but still there, like Haas and Ferrari. They've in the past had times where they've swapped team members, or they've had team members that were ostensibly employed by one team but working on behalf of the other. I think there's something to be said about that. I'm not sure that Alpine's the team that you'd buy if you're looking for rookie talent and the rookie talent pipeline. If you recall, famously, Oscar Piastri was meant to come through and become an Alpine driver, and he was snatched away from underneath their gaze by McLaren, by Zach Brown. And then also they've had pretty much just Colapinto and Doohan. So I don't think Alpine's really that much of a big deal when it comes to that. But it's such a huge deal, the thought that collusion and teams working together, even if it's unstated, if it doesn't go on the radio, if it's just kind of a softly working together thing, that to me as a fan, it just strikes me as absolutely the wrong thing that we should stamp that out.
Do you remember RB, as in not Red Bull, but Team RB, stealing fastest lap points in seasons gone by?
Remember the very last race that Daniel Ricciardo did, and he got the fastest lap on the last lap of that race? Yeah.
And they've got rid of it for that. They've got rid of it for that reason.
Don't bring it back, mate.
Oh yeah, now that needs to go. I think that needs to go. But obviously, money talks behind the scenes. But yeah, interesting. But no,
what do you think about fastest lap disappearing as a point generator? Do you like it or loathe it?
I like it for that reason. If there wasn't a team that had two teams on the grid, I'd probably be. I don't know. It feels a bit silly. It feels a bit silly because you can be anywhere up to 10th place. Like, to get fastest lap historically, you had to be in the top 10, didn't you? So you could basically, you could nick it off someone who was actually leading the championship. So I don't know, just say like Lando's P1 and Oscar's P10. You could be like, who cares? Like, we'll pit Oscar and he'll get the point, and that will take it off. It's probably good that it's gone. I think maybe. What do you think?
Agree. Yeah, totally agree.
I think it's probably good.
It's just a total novelty. Did not belong in the sport. It's like getting extra point for qualifying first or something. Like, no, get rid of that. Yeah.
Oh, I
wouldn't mind getting rid of the batteries as well.
Yeah, wouldn't mind getting.
We've talked about qualifying changes, and maybe that's an off-season topic for us to come back to, how we change Qualifying, yeah. So, what do you think though about Lando feeling hard done by in the outcome of today's race? Do you think that's right or wrong?
Listen, I've got two children, so I didn't have a chance. I did not have a chance to listen to the post-race interviews on this occasion, so you could speak to it better than I can. He shouldn't feel hard done by. Like, Mercedes had the better strategy. They did the undercut. It worked, just like they did with Ferrari. It worked. You can't feel hard done by. You just have to go back to your back to your team and say, "Can we please not let that happen again?" Because I would have won that race. Woulda, shoulda, coulda, woulda, shoulda, woulda, coulda, coulda.
Yeah,
all of
I
that.
agree. I totally agree. And I think if you're the faster driver, overtake, get it done on track. Oh, but Charles Leclerc, I think he was close to being one of the fastest drivers today. But what a chaotic race for him! Oh my word! And that last lap. Did you see that last lap when he spun, went off, crashed, came back on, decided to keep going, just, don't let the bad times end or the good times end.
Crashed into George, I think.
Did you notice this? I don't know.
Front axle just gone.
It's just
no steering anymore. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, and I have to go back and watch the replay for this, going down that long straight, I'm pretty sure his wing opened and then closed.
Yes, it did.
Because he'd hit the wall with his wing. So his DRS, whatever, the active aero thing, just was not functional. It was absolutely comical. And he got himself 20 seconds of a penalty after the race because he left the track and gained an advantage several times and he kept going. So he finished in P6, but with the 20 seconds of penalties, he ended up.
Can I just say, you've highlighted something that I found so amusing. These front wings that now move. George had the same thing. Every time his wing closed, like sparks were flying because it was damaged.
Yeah.
Do you see that? Like, so it was going to wing open, absolutely fine. Wing closed, a trail of sparks. But like I think we love these races, don't we? Like a lot happened. The threat of rain was there. It never came. I think all their kind of weather engineers knew, or their weather specialists knew that it wasn't coming long before us as spectators. Because I think I was waiting with bated breath for a wet race, and then suddenly realised everyone was pitting for a fresh pair of hard tyres. I'm like, I think they know that it's not coming. It's like there's no rain, is there? It's like, no, there was no rain.
They moved the race ahead. They moved it forward so that it would avoid
3
the
hours.
rain.
Yeah, very clever.
I think it's kind of an unfair move, don't you think? If there's scheduled rain,
I had that thought. Like, they're so strict on everything in F1. Like, the race has to be completed within 2 hours, and it's like, oh, you're just going to move the race, are you? You're just going to move it so it's not wet. Like, I think we wanted a wet race, didn't we?
It kind of reminds me of Australia last year. If they'd moved the race forward, it wouldn't have worked, and if they'd moved the race back, we wouldn't have had a race. So they did the right thing in Australia 2025. They had the race when the race was meant to start, and it was great. Oh man! And
just on this, I think a half dry, half wet race is heaven to me as a spectator, because like your mind is with all the teams thinking, do like safety car, do we pit if we think there's rain in 10 laps? No, we just stay out because we're going to have to go into inters because it's going to get wet. Like, I think that you go to 4D chess mode when there's a threat of rain, don't you? So like, I feel a bit gutted as a fan to have had that threat removed.
Totally agree. Can we agree also that Perez is cooking Bottas? Perez is cooking Bottas. Bottas is nowhere in sight. What do you make of it? In this race, he got shown so many flags for his various adventures. It was almost like he was trying to collect them like they're Pokemon. Bottas is making up the numbers. That's my take on the year so far. What do you think?
They've both got 0 points so far. But yes.
Okay, if that's how you measure success at the end of the year, then fine.
No, you're right. I mean, I haven't been paying attention too much towards that end of the grid, but I'll take your word for it. Which I'm sad about because I love Bottas and his weird little kind of blonde mullet and stuff. I think he's kind of got a bit of the Daniel Ricciardo kind of court jester vibe to him. But yeah, sounds like it. Sounds like you're right. Sounds like. Hey, I want to go back. You disagree with me on something, and I really wanted to hear your thoughts. We talked about Kimi's starts this year. 4 races. What are we on? Is this race 4?
4 races and 2 sprints.
4 races and 2 sprints. Awful starts, every single one. I said, I think it's driver error. You said you strongly disagreed. I want to know what you think. Like, what have you read something? Have you picked up on something that you can tell us about?
Kimi can do no wrong, my friend. That's
okay.
That's all no. My only piece of evidence, and it's flimsy as hell, is that Bono said something. I think it was after the sprint that Kimi came on the radio and said, "Did I do the wrong thing? Was my starting procedure what caused that?" And Bono said, "You did everything right."
Okay.
So it could be both. It could be that he's just not quite, getting to terms with the starting procedure, which are whack this season. I really don't like. Can we just pause on that? Watching the formation lap forming up on the grid, and then the 5 lights, boom, 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 and away we go, and the cars sort of buzzing up. That is like one of the best parts of the entire week. When there's a race week, that is the culmination. Everything is leading up to that point. This year, however, we get there and they buzz on the grid like mosquitoes with these little orange lights sometimes wearing up just because they've got to get themselves ready to go. Oh, got to put my shoes on. Bzz. I find it such a buzzkill the way the starts go at the moment. Okay, rant over. I think it's potentially, as you say, driver error. And the funniest thing happened for me anyway was after the sprint, Coulthard was interviewing Kimi and said, "How's about those starts?" or something to that effect. And Kimi just made the classic like whoa face, like he knew exactly. And he's right. He's very self-critical guy, I think, Kimi. He knows that he's just got to iron that out, whatever it is, whether it's a gremlin, whether it's a procedure, whether it's him just not having his coordination right. They've got to get on top of that because this kid could be the next Schumacher.
You know what? I think he's been practicing it for the last 5 weeks every single day. And I remember Toto.
It hasn't helped.
Well done, Kimi. We need to really work on those starts. You need to go back to school. Kind of like. So I think Toto puts the blame firmly on Kimi. So it's interesting to hear that Bono's just like, no, you did everything right. So it's probably a bit of both. But I think
that could be race engineer doing something kind to his driver and not putting the blame on him in the public forum.
Exactly. Yeah. That, and that's so Bono. But it's it doesn't seem to matter though, does it, Jace? Because he wins anyway.
With a fair helping of luck, like in Japan, he's got it.
Luck, yeah.
But
and I think today wasn't luck.
No,
today was good team strategy and good driving.
I think didn't Norris have a slow pit stop? He had a wheel that didn't come off, so it's like a little bit of luck.
He was undercut and a slow, but not an awfully slow pit stop.
No,
like not terrible.
I think you gotta give it to the driver that can withstand the pressure. And kind of do the needful, as they say, to get the race finished and not kind of crack and crumble under pressure.
I think Kimi
we have seen others
is brilliant at being. One thing I've noticed about Kimi is that he's flipping amazing at maintaining under pressure of being hunted down. He's a little Houdini. He just somehow just like continues to slip away and frustrate the driver behind him. So he may be an awful starter, but like once he's got that lead, my feeling of hope, I think, over this season of anyone getting past him is going to begin to go down and down and down if he keeps doing this.
You know where that comes from?
Where?
So when I first started watching Kimi, this is a total humble brag. I used to watch Italian F4 just for the fun of it. And I saw him win that championship. I think it was 5 years ago now. And in Italian F4, they're all basically the same car. So you don't have this big delta between team and driver between driver. And so Kimi he'd be winning from pole position. And that entire race, the entire grid, as they're going around all these circuits, they're bumper to bumper the whole time. And I was just blown away back then seeing this basically like 14-year-old kid just withstand and soak up all that pressure and win the race. So he's got he's got that in his back pocket, that thing. He just needs to get
Yeah.
the starts.
Yeah. Interesting that it so refreshing compared to like the 2 years of Max dominance where Max would be 20 seconds down the road. It was only 1.8 seconds Lando was behind. So, you know, it is encouraging that the starting grid was 4 teams, position 1 to 4. We had Mercedes, McLaren, Ferrari. We had them all up there, Red Bull, in the top 4 positions. That's encouraging. And then that Kimi couldn't just go off down the road 10 seconds, 15 seconds was also encouraging. So I think, Jace, we are still in for a season where anything could happen. I think with the right upgrades, any one of those top 4 teams could kind of move into a dominant position. I think for Kimi, I think you pointed this out, the European leg is looming. That was his dark. That was Kimi's dark night of the soul last season. And it's a chunky leg, isn't it, Jace? It's a chunky leg. It's a big leg. So if we got that, we've got Canadian Grand Prix next, and then are we into the European leg?
I think so.
That is looming.
Monaco comes after that.
Yeah. So he's got some demons to wrestle with there. I'm sure he'll beat them, but yeah.
Time will tell. It will be the Canadian Grand Prix last year was when he got his first podium. So for Kimi, that was where Lando crashed into Piastri as well. So that's why George Russell won that race.
And didn't Lewis Hamilton didn't Hamilton run over a small animal as well?
Yes.
And then cry about it after. Oh, bless him.
Oh yeah. Oh, such good memories. But yeah, the Monaco Grand Prix from last year, if you recall, that was when both Kimi and George had mechanical problems.
Yes.
They qualified really poorly, and the FIA decided to put a mandatory 2 pit stop rule in place.
Which you hated.
Oh, well, let's see if that makes a return this year. Golly.
They won't.
Okay.
They won't.
I have every hope that Kimi will have put those demons to bed, and he will be able to sail through the European leg with style. But it remains to be seen, and I'm here for it.
Can you, a couple of things on Kimi. Can you start, please, pronouncing his name correctly going forward?
Andrea Kimi Antonelli. How's that?
There was a few commentators this weekend who started calling him Kimi and Kimi, but they're kind of like English commentators being like,
yes.
And so we now see Kimi, and it's like, sorry, you were not calling him Kimi a couple of weeks ago, but I was like, has Kimi complained to Toto and said, they're calling me Kimi, my name is Kimi, and have broadcasters been told to begin to call him Kimi? But Brundle, thank goodness, he's never going to change for anyone, is he?
Yeah,
he still calls him Kimi. Also,
they don't call him Fernando and Carlos. You know, they don't put this effort in with any other driver.
Kimi. Also, can Kimi stop doing the shaka?
Why?
Because
what's wrong with that?
It's really, I mean, is he a surfer? Because it's a native Hawaiian thing to do, the shaka.
Okay. And cultural appropriation.
And can he not do the Usain Bolt thing? Because he's also not that man from that generation. It's like, Kimi, please don't do Usain. The shaka, I can be like, okay, you're a kid, you've watched some surf videos, maybe you think that's cool, I'll let it slide. The Usain Bolt thing, taking like an elite...
Usain. Oh, that's a nice one.
Did I say?
Hussein.
Did I say Hussein? Usain. Oh, gosh. Cut that out, the podcast. Usain Bolt. I don't think you can take someone else's move, can you? He thinks you can. He did a little one.
You can.
He did a little one today. Like, I think the last race before we broke up, he did the full one. But this one, he kind of just went like that. And it was a bit like, oh, if someone said something, maybe don't do that. Yeah.
I think
doesn't bother you, though, does it?
Sport is full of these iconic things.
The little choker chain.
Yeah. If you see the choker chain, it's the same chain he's had for years. And when he was younger, his neck was a lot thinner. So it's like any bigger, and the chain's just going to snap off at any moment.
I think it's it looks like a leather cord. Looks like a leather cord, but yeah. Okay.
Could be. The drivers, when they get out of the car, they usually do the same basic thing. the I guess the palette of gestures is relatively limited, Gab. So I think doing a bit of Hussein Bolt,
no.
I'm okay with that.
Did you say Hussein? It's actually pronounced Usain.
No, I thought it was Usain Bolt.
Boot.
Yeah, and they don't make the same effort with Charlie Leclerc. That's what Martin likes to call him.
Charlie, yeah.
Oh my god, yeah! Bring on the Canadian Grand Prix. I'm a big fan of that circuit. I love it. I love the way it flows. Big challenging circuit. I'm not a big fan of the Miami circuit, and I'm kind of sad that we're going to have it for the next 16 years. It's around until 2041. It makes me not very happy. But the Canadian Grand Prix in Montreal, I love that circuit. I love the way it looks. Love the way it flows. Yeah. Like, what do you think of?
It's just so beautiful. Like, just some of those kind of tree lines where the trees kind of create a canopy, like a tunnel, and the light kind of flickers through it. It's kind of Dickensian or Charlotte Bronte. It's almost like kind of a British summer drive. It's kind of, I don't know, there's something so beautiful about that course. And like you say, it's fast, it's flowing. Some of those corners are just kind of feel like they're never ending. It's just, I think it's beautiful. And actually it makes it's almost like the perfect setup for the European, although Silverstone is like an ugly airfield, but like in terms of like the kind of the greenery, the flora, the fauna, the wild animals running onto the track, it sets up Europe nicely, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. If you want to think about picturesque, iconic circuits, I think the Red Bull Ring's got to be right up there.
100%.
It's one of the best.
100%.
I was looking back at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix from last year, and I kind of like that circuit now. I'm doubly sad that we missed it this time, because it's a little bit like, as I was watching a few of the onboards just because I was sad, and it's a little bit like a flat roller coaster. It's like constantly going left and right. Even on the straight, you have sort of a gentle curve. And I'm disappointed that we missed out on that this year. I think that would have been a good opportunity to see, without this big break, if Mercedes was able to keep marching on in that way, or if McLaren would have been able to peg them back a little bit earlier. But I suppose in a couple of weeks' time, we'll see the next piece of evidence towards that battle when we get together again and look at the Canadian Grand Prix.
I think in Canada, as fans, what we need to see is like a more of the same. We need to see some fighting at the front. We need to feel like anyone could win this race in those top teams. That's what we need to feel. Get your waffles ready. Get your maple syrup in the cupboard. We are going to get your poutine ready if you're French Canadian. Your chips with cheese and gravy.
What about your engine de poitrine? Got to get that ready as well.
Wet. Jace, can't wait. I'll see you in Canada.
Rock on.
Hard Rock Cafe on.